Hi, I'm Matt Garson. I work on the Windows Storage and File System team, and I'm here today to talk about storage spaces, which is a new feature in Windows Server 2012. Before I talk in detail about storage spaces, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about storage in Windows Server 2012 and some of the design goals that we had in general around storage based on feedback from our customers. So as a starting point, when we think about Windows Server 2012 and storage, we want Windows Server 2012 to be the most cost-efficient platform for highly available and highly scalable data access. When we talk to customers across all market segments, we get a variety of different requirements reflecting what it is that those customers are trying to do with storage, what their business needs are. And that spans customer segments from the small and medium business to hosters to the enterprise. But in talking to our customers, some common themes emerge. Themes around ease of management, operational simplicity, themes around cost, themes around certain capabilities that all our customers, regardless of how they deploy storage or what their business needs are, have in common. And so when we take that feedback and we think about it, what we did is we designed storage spaces, which is platform virtualization storage technology. What that means is by being part of the Windows Server 2012 platform, it's available to all of our customers, which allows customers to build solutions appropriate for their business and their requirements with a flexible set of capabilities. And it delivers these new storage solutions at dramatically new price points by using industry standard commodity storage. So when we think about storage spaces in more detail, fundamentally what we start with is the concept of a storage pool. A storage pool is a virtualized object. It's a unit of aggregation. And so we take physical disks and we virtualize them, we aggregate them into one or more storage pools. So rather than having to manage physical disks, customers can manage storage pools. It's more scalable, it's more flexible. You can take a bunch of disks, you can create one storage pool, you can create 2 storage pools, you can create 10 storage pools, depending on what your needs are. In turn, from the storage pool, you create storage spaces or virtual disks. And spaces can be configured with a variety of attributes, going back to what I was saying about different needs for different customers, but keeping in mind the breadth of requirements across all the different ways in which Windows customers deploy storage. So some of those capabilities include things like resiliency to disk failure, things like fixed versus thin provisioning, just-in-time allocation. It allows customers to deploy storage in a very scalable fashion, being able to scale up or scale out depending on what their needs are. Fundamentally, across all of our customer segments, we know that data access and ensuring availability and resiliency to failure are important for all of our customers. And so, using storage spaces, customers have a set of platform technologies which integrate with the rest of Server 2012, meaning that regardless of how you deploy Windows Server 2012, if you're deploying application servers running SQL or Exchange, or if you're running workloads like Active Directory or the file server workload, if you're deploying Hyper-V, storage spaces integrates with all of these different roles and technologies, providing a common platform storage, allowing for a very flexible set of deployments. Regardless of how you want to use Windows Server 2012, storage spaces is part of the platform and allows you to build upon it, integrating with other Windows components. So in a moment, I'm going to walk through a demo that's going to show certain capabilities around storage spaces. And this demo is going to be focused on scalability and performance, but as you'll see, I'll explain how this demo is representative of some of the larger capabilities that storage spaces provides and the inherent flexibility of the platform. So in a moment, we'll look at the demo, and then I'll kind of talk through it, explain what's going on, and you can see what storage spaces capabilities are using real hardware. So I talked about how storage spaces integrates with other capabilities in Windows Server 2012 to provide a very scalable, flexible platform. In this demo, we're going to take a look at a configuration that uses some of those other capabilities to deliver high performance while maintaining high availability and resiliency to drive failure. So as a starting point, let's talk a little bit about the configuration here. We have 3 servers that are networked together and configured using Windows failover clustering. We can see the 3 servers here over in the column that says nodes. The 3 servers are configured such that if any of the individual servers fail, then the workloads can migrate to the remaining servers using Windows failover clustering. So there's now resiliency to node failure. The servers are configured so that they're connected to 2 enclosures. Each of these enclosures, or JBODs, is configured with 24 SSDs. We're going to take a look over here under the Storage tab, and we'll see the physical disks in just a moment. So what we've done is we've created a single storage pool, that unit of management and virtualization I mentioned earlier. And the storage pool is comprised of, as I was saying, 48 physical disks. And these physical disks are SAS SSDs, so they're capable of delivering high performance. Now, I talked about how storage spaces can be configured with a variety of attributes. In other words, in this particular case, one of the important attributes for us is resiliency to disk failure. We want our data to be available even if one of those disks fails. And so what we've done is we've created 6 storage spaces, or virtual disks, and these virtual disks are configured as a mirror, meaning that 2 copies of the data are stored, so that in the event of one of the drives failing, we still have an alternate copy available. So at a high level, what we have here is a configuration that gives us resiliency to server failure and resiliency to disk failure. Now, there's another attribute of this configuration that I want to mention briefly, which is that each of the 3 servers I mentioned, the ones that are configured as part of a failover cluster, have 4 host bus adapters inside each of them. A host bus adapter is just the card that is going to connect to the enclosure. Now, each server has 4 of those host bus adapters, and the enclosures that we're using have 2 I/O modules. Each of those I/O modules have 3 input ports each. So in other words, each of the enclosure has 6 possible input ports, and the 2 enclosure together have 12 input ports. Now, each of our servers have 4 HBAs, and of those 4 HBAs, a pair, 2, are connected to each of the enclosures. This allows us to have a multi-path redundant configuration, so that if one of the HBAs fails, there's still a path to the storage. Or if there's a cable disconnect, you can still access the data. The other benefit of this configuration is it allows us to have improved throughput. So at a high level, we have a very resilient configuration. We're resilient to node failure, we're resilient to HBA failure, to cable disconnect, and our storage is also equivalently resilient. We're resilient to disk failure. So that's kind of the configuration. Let's take a look and see what the capabilities are here. Basically, what I'm going to do is we have a little script that will simulate a typical application workload. And the application workload is going to run against the 48 SSDs that are in our enclosure using the 3 different servers. This is focused on performance, but it's worth keeping in mind that despite delivering performance, we also have a very flexible, highly available configuration behind us. And we're going to start with some read performance tests, and I'll explain the numbers that are coming out of this script momentarily when they appear on the screen. So what the output of this script is demonstrating is that the storage and the servers are delivering about 2.7 million IOs per second. That translates to around 20 gigabytes per second, or around 1.2 terabytes a minute. Those are some very impressive performance numbers, and of course, as I said earlier, that's what this particular configuration is designed to do. While still delivering high availability and resiliency, using these SSDs, we can deliver a very highly performant system. Now, not everybody needs this degree of performance. So with storage spaces, again, of course, the hardware choices are very flexible. And instead of deploying highly performant SSDs, you could use high capacity SAS disks. So for a workload such as an archive or a backup where you need capacity rather than performance, you would use a high capacity hard disk rather than a highly performant SSD. Of course, you can mix different device types as well. So we have customers who have workloads like VDI or Hyper-V, where they're using a mix of SSDs and HDDs within a single enclosure. And that's a configuration that Storage Spaces completely supports. Going back to the hardware for a moment, this is a configuration with 3 servers, 3 nodes that are configured together in Windows failover clustering. But storage spaces is scalable, and using Windows failover clustering and clustered shared volume, you can scale out, increasing the number of servers and the number of storage nodes as well, up to the 64 node cluster limit in Windows Server 2012. So this particular configuration, again, highly available, resilient, demonstrating performance, but it can be scaled out depending on what the needs of your deployment and your business are. So again, this goes back to storage spaces as part of the Windows Server 2012 platform, providing a very flexible set of capabilities for a variety of deployments across all the different ways that customers deploy storage in Windows Server 2012. I've talked today about how storage spaces in Windows Server 2012 deliver a new category of flexible and very capable storage solutions. I hope you have the chance to try out Windows Server 2012 and see why we're so excited about it and how we think it's going to help your business. Thanks again for watching.